everyone, my name is Caroline Keeble, and today I'm going to be discussing the highly debated topic, minimum wage. In this video, we will be discussing what minimum wage is, how it affects the lower, middle, and upper class, why we should increase it, and why we shouldn't. So let's get on with the video. So what is minimum wage? The dictionary definition is the lowest wage permitted by law or by a special agreement. Now, a minimum wage rate is the lowest hourly pay that can be awarded to workers. For instance, if you work at Sperry's as a waitress and your boss wants to pay you as little money as possible, the lowest he can go is the minimum wage, depending on which state you are in. Now, if you're an extremely hard worker and your boss sees this, maybe you'll be paid more, but it's up to him, and since he isn't going below the minimum wage, he can. Something to keep in mind is minimum wage rates vary depending on each state. Take a look at this graph and see what your state's minimum wage is. Now, it's pretty obvious how each class will be affected by a higher or lower minimum wage, but I'll summarize each class. Lower class. Decreasing minimum wage would help out lower income families because by decreasing the pay, you need more people to work for the company, which allows for more out of work people to get jobs. The low-income families who already have jobs might benefit if the minimum wage went up because they would make more money. But the risk is if the boss needs to cut some of his workers because he is paying more money than he intended, there is a chance that person can be cut. By increasing the minimum wage, that means there are less job opportunities, which doesn't help any of the low-income families looking for jobs. Middle class. This is a toss-up because out of every class, the middle class is the highest populated class. A higher minimum wage could affect about half the people well because they weren't cut by their bosses, but affect the other half terribly because they were cut and now out of a job. The middle class will maintain its highest rank, but some might be living well, while others might be struggling. The higher class. The higher class isn't really affected compared to the middle and lower class. As long as the person's business is strong and continuing to grow, a higher increase in the minimum wage won't affect. So why should we increase the minimum wage to $15? A main reason why is by increasing the salary, more low-income people will get more money for their families than themselves. Now remember I said $15, not anything higher, because an issue that would come from this is that stuff would become too expensive and nobody would want to buy the same item. Many stores would go out of business, and the few who managed to stay open would have very little employees, which doesn't help people looking for jobs. An important rule to follow in this is called the right to work. If an employee is slacking off and isn't putting in the work, the employer should have the right to fire the said employee. If you were to decrease the minimum wage, that means more people would need to work. But if most of those people slack off all the time and are paid, the employer can't fire them because they're more unemployed. Overall, there seem to be more pros than cons by increasing the minimum wage. All I can see that comes from decreasing the minimum wage is the government will continue to pay for lower income families, no jobs available for the lower class. Many people will just take advantage of the system. There really aren't any benefits to decreasing the minimum wage, so I think we should either keep it the same or increase. I have, but I'll leave you with this. A higher minimum wage might mean less employment, but our goal isn't for everyone to get a job, but to increase our middle class population. The lower class might disagree, but by increasing the minimum wage, you are working towards making your next generation middle class.